Hello friends, I'm going to show you a very quick game played by our beast, that is the Adhiban guys. Yes guys, in the second round of the World Cup, Adhiban played a very crushing attacking game against his strong Paraguayan grandmaster Delgado Ramirez Norris, and in this game he gave a queen sacrifice and checkmated his opponent. So guys, we will get straight to the game and find out what really happened in the game. But don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you are new here, and in comment section write down beast OP or Adhiban OP. Guys, see you then. Well, this game started with d4 where Adhiban was white, his opponent Delgado is black. They started, then knight to f6, c4 was played, e6, and then knight c3. Well, this is a normal opening position. Bishop to b4 was played. This is the Nimzo Indian. And if you know that attacking chess happens when we play f3 move. Yes, this is the opening where you really want to attack on your opponent. Black plays d5. Here a3 was played, attacking the bishop. Bishop captures on c3, b captures on c3, and then c6. Well, now what to do? Any normal player will go for bishop to g5 or maybe e3, but it will not dare for the e4 move. Well, Adhiban is a beast and he goes for the sacrifice. He plays e4. The point is, like, if you capture here, which was actually played in the game, and if you play knight into e4, the thing is that you are getting so much of play just for the sacrifice pawn. Your knight will come on f3 square. That is one of the thing. Another thing is also there that we can play queen to g4, and then knight will be attacked, and pawn on g7 is also being attacked. If you go back here, then we can capture the pawn on g7. Okay, some people wants to play like this, some people don't want to play under pressure. That's why here his opponent, after capturing on e4, plays e5. Well, then just developing move, knight to f3, then queen a5. Well, the pawn on c3 is being attacked. What to do? Well, we just protect that pawn with bishop to d2. Okay, now still the pawn on e4 is hanging, and finally his opponent captures the pawn on e4. Now, are you going to be in a bad situation? Actually not, because you will be having lots of activity with your pieces. That's what Adhiban did. He played bishop to d3. The thing is that black is playing the same piece again and again and wasting so many moves. Okay, he has got the pawn, but his king is in the center and he doesn't have any protectors when he is going to castle on this side of the board. And we'll see what happens next. Queen captures d2, he captures d4, and as they say, that romantic era, the pawns are not important. The most important thing on the chessboard is the king, and Adhiban goes for the king. He says, like, okay, I need more and more pieces in the game. The more pieces I will have, the more chances for me to checkmate my opponent, and that's why he plays castles in this position. His opponent also goes for the castle, but as I said, there are no defenders here, right? And only the king, lonely king. The queen, this rook, knight, and the bishop are like the spectators on the other side of the board. So what we should do? We should try to bring more pieces towards the side of the king side here. Okay, so if you always divide the chessboard in two parts, then you will understand where to attack. Wherever you have more number of pieces, there you should attack. So here this bishop is aiming towards this queen is also aiming towards this, but we want our rook also in the game. So he plays first thing knight g5, attacking the point on h7. Now bishop into h7 is a straightforward threat. Here there are two things by which you can support the pawn on or protect the pawn on h7. One thing is there that you can play g6. Another thing is like f5, which was played in the game. We will be considering both the options. What happens if you play h6? Well guys, you can see that we have this check first, but giving the check will not be useful because he will just play here, and then what do you have? You don't have anything, right? Another thing is also there that after h6, what can we play? We can play knight into f7, right? Why is he playing this thing? Because if he captures this thing here, then we can even capture this thing, or we have queen to e2, right? Queen e2 is the best move in the position, because the point is we are just going to play queen to e8, and then the rook on f7 will be at like just gone. If you play rook into f1 check, I'll just play rook into f1. Okay, white has given up a piece, but black's king is in big trouble. He doesn't have any defensive resources. Now queen e8, rook, all these threats are there, and the queen is also not in the game. Maybe you can try to come back with your queen, but then we can play queen to e4. The threat is to play queen h7 and check and mate. So h6 is not going to help you. Here g6 is something which we can play, but after g6 we have another good move, that is rook a e1. This move looks very normal, like what are you going to do? We are just bringing the rook in the game, but the point is like just like the previous variation, the queen came on e2 and the e8 was the queen e8 was the threat. Here also rook comes on the e file and there are many threats because we are going to attack the point, that is the f7 now. Maybe he can capture on c3, then we will bring the rook queen in the game, that queen f4. Now f6 might be played in this situation. Okay, we have this check, but even if we give the check, king h1 will be played, and now you don't have anything because the pawn on f7 is being attacked by 3 pieces here and black needs to save that pawn. So here if you play f6, then you have a great sacrifice, that is knight into f7, and after king into f7, the thing is that we can play queen h4 check. Queen h5 is not a good idea because here the pawn on g6 is a pinned pawn because of the bishop on d3. We can just capture here and this will lead to a checkmate, so that's not a good idea. What happens if you play king g7? Well, the rook a e1 move which we played will come in handy now. We will play rook to e1 check, rook f7, and now queen into f6, king here, check here, and check and mate is going to happen on the board. So all these variations are pretty interesting. In the game he plays f5, but again Adhiban knows that what he needs to do. He needs to bring his pieces towards the king side. So this queen is not doing that great job. He plays one thing, that we need to bring the queen. But how will you bring the queen here? Bringing the queen in the game. And queen e2 is one of the options. But what are we going to do? Even if the queen comes on the h5 square, black can just simply play h6 and defend the situation. So that's why we need to be a little bit more aggressive. We need to be more quick. And in order to bring the queen with more effects, he plays c5. Well, c5 is a great move here because if we capture queen into c5, the thing is that queen a2, yes, this hidden threat was there, queen to a2 check. If the king goes inside, then we have knight f7 check, rook into f7, queen into f7. Now queen e8 is the checkmate threatened. Maybe he can play queen d5 trying to bring the queen in the game, but now we can simply play queen to e7. The rook is going to come on e1 square, the pawn on f7 is going to fall. Once the pawn on f7 falls, the rook will also come in the game and black is almost getting checkmated, guys. So he did not go for queen into c5. Here he played king to h8, but okay, no problem. Here we play queen e2 now because now there are more threats in the situation. Okay, I'll be showing you that thing. He brings the knight. Finally he feels like, okay, at least one piece should be there on the king side. So he plays knight d7, but now knight into f7, a brilliant move, opening up everything on the king side. No shelter, nothing, because you can see this bishop is also aiming towards this thing, okay, and black doesn't have any defense against it. So knight into h7. If you capture here, obviously queen to h5 check, king g8, then bishop c4 check, rook f7, queen f7, king comes here, and queen h5 will lead to a check and mate. So that's not a good idea to capture the knight. And if you don't capture, that's what happened. He captured on c3, but then now the queen comes on h7 square, h5 square. Now discovered check is there, and then there will be a check and mate. So here he plays queen c5 check, king goes into the corner with h1, and now king g8. Black thinks like, okay, maybe he can defend the situation, but now more threats happen on the board. He plays bishop into f5. Obviously if we capture here, then I will just capture here, and then there are more threats. Queen e8 check is there, and the queen is also being attacked. That's not a good idea, and you are getting extended down also. Okay, after this he plays queen d5 trying to defend the situation because bishop on f5 was threatening bishop e6 check. Okay, so he plays queen to d5, now knight g5. Well, we are threatening queen h7 check and mate. Black plays knight f6 thinking that now h7 square is guarded, he cannot really give queen to h7 check. But Adhiban is a player who is not afraid of anything. He is such a fearless player. He goes for queen to h7 check. The point is that it is going to be a checkmate, guys. Yes, queen sacrifice leads to checkmate after knight into h7, bishop into h7, king h8, and now rook into f8. Queen g8 comes, and rook into g8 is a checkmate. Amazing game, right? I really loved this game when I was looking at live also, guys. I hope that you enjoyed the analysis, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you are new here. We'll be meeting very soon with some new content about the World Cup. Till that moment,